Good Saturday morning. It is time for us to start the book of Exodus. And we're going to start by just saying what the book of Exodus is about. And the Bible in Genesis, it's the book of beginnings, Genesis. And the book of Exodus is the book of redemption or deliverance. So we're going to see what happened after Joseph, after everything about Joseph was written. And it says at the very last verse of Genesis, so Joseph died being 110 years old, and they embalmed him, and he was put in a coffin in Egypt. And then begins the second book of Moses, called Exodus. Exodus means a going out. A going out. Genesis meant beginning, and Exodus means a going out. Later on in Exodus, we learned that the children of Israel were in Egypt for 430 years. 430 years. Did you know the United States of America has only been a nation for 248 years? So they were in Egypt a long time. And but Joseph, remember he said, God will surely visit you. He knew they were going to go sometime back to the land of Canaan. So this is the time. This is the recording of what happened to get them out of Egypt and back into the land of Canaan. That's really an interesting thing to read about, isn't it? So let's start chapter 1. It says, "Now these are the names of the children of Israel which came into Egypt. Every man in his household came with Jacob. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, and Judah. Issachar, Zebulun," that's all of Leah's children, "and Benjamin." Now that was Rachel's child. "Dan and Naphtali, Gad and Asher." Those were the handmaidens' children. So on all the souls that came out of the loins of Jacob were 70 souls, for Joseph was in Egypt already. And Joseph died, and all his brethren, and all that generation. Yes, 430 years, of course, they lived their lives out. Verse 7, "And the children of Israel were fruitful, and increased abundantly, and multiplied, and waxed exceeding mighty, and the land was filled with them." Yes, they were just more and more and more and more. I'm not sure how many people came out of Egypt when it was time that they did get to come out, but I think it was in the million, at least a million. I'll learn that by the time it's time for them to come out. We'll find out how many people there were. So it was they were an abundant nation there in the land of Goshen. "Now there arose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph." It took a while. They were there 430 years. It took a while before the pharaohs didn't know about Joseph. But this man knew not Joseph. "And he said unto his people, Behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply, and it come to pass that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies and fight against us, and so get them out of the land. Therefore they did set over them taskmasters to afflict them with their burdens, and they built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses. But the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew, and they were grieved because of the children of Israel." They didn't like there being that many of them, and were afraid of them. when it says, "Come on, let us deal wisely with them, lest they multiply. And it came to pass that when there falleth out any war, they join also unto our enemies and fight against us. And so get them up out of the land." Isn't that strange that they thought they'll leave? Why were they afraid for them to leave? We know because they were prosperous. We know that Joseph helped them to be prosperous, and they were prosperous, and that they were probably blessing the Egyptians by their presence, just as Jacob blessed Laban with his presence, because God was blessing the children of Israel. And so they didn't want them to get up out of the land, but they didn't want them to be so mighty that when war came, they'd fight against them. They were just afraid of them. And so they began to make them slaves. But it says the more they afflicted them, the more they multiplied and grew. And they were grieved because of the children of Israel. And the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve with rigor. Really put it down hard on them that they had to work for them. They made them slaves. And they made their lives bitter with hard bondage, in mortar and in brick and in all manner of service in the field. All their service wherein they made them serve was with rigor. And rigor meant they had to get with it. They had to work hard. And they weren't allowed to have a big bunch of rest or a big taking care of just themselves. They had to be slaves for the Egyptians. Verse 15. And the king of Egypt spake to the Hebrew midwives, of which the name of the one was Shiphrah, and the name of the other Puah. And he said, When you do the office of a midwife to the Hebrew women, and see them upon the stools, if it be a son, then you shall kill him. But if it be a daughter, then she shall live. Wow. Kill him. Midwives. Midwives are not willing to kill children, kill babies. They were, instead of doctors seeing the children come into this world, there were midwives and women who helped other women have babies. And this one, Shiphrah and Puah, they were commanded to kill the boys and let the daughters live. They wanted to make the Hebrews weak by having only girl children and not having any men. But the midwives feared God and did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the men children alive. Feared God. See, when you look at the children of Israel being there, they had brought the knowledge of the true and the living God into Egypt. Egypt served idol gods. They didn't know the true and the living God. But these midwives who had worked in the Hebrews, had worked to help them bear their children, they had learned of the true and the living God. And the Bible said that they feared God. So realize that no matter what happens to you in your life, because you're a Christian, you are still being a light to everybody around you. And that light is shining, and it's helping others to believe. They're learning to believe in your God and your Savior. So keep letting that light shine, because those midwives knew about God, and they feared God, and did not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved the men children alive. And the king of Egypt called for the midwives and said unto them, Why have you done this thing, and have saved the men children alive? And the midwives said unto Pharaoh, Because the Hebrew women are not as the Egyptian women, for they are lively, and are delivered ere the midwives come in unto them. We don't have a chance. Those Hebrew women, they have the baby before we even get there. How would he know they weren't telling the truth? How would he know? He's not going to go watch them. So, and they feared God, so they were leading Pharaoh wrong. You know, let's talk about that a little bit, about lying because you fear God. Of course, at this time, there was no such thing as the Ten Commandments about not bearing false witness. So, there wasn't a law against lying, was there? But the midwives, they told a lie. I'm sure they did, because I'm sure there wasn't all those children of Israel just didn't have to have midwives with them, all of them. But they had lied to Pharaoh because they feared God. So there are times that people do tell lies in order to be true to God. Oh dear. But the rule, the thing that you hold dear is the truth. And you try to tell the truth no matter what. Because the Lord says, Jesus said, He's the way, the truth, and the life. So I'm just saying about that they lied to Pharaoh so that they weren't in trouble, because they were not going to kill those baby boys. And the midwives said unto Pharaoh, and we said that, therefore God dealt well with the midwives, and the people multiplied and waxed very mighty. Like that verb waxed means it congealed. Like wax congeals and makes something hard. And it just got to be waxed into being very mighty. So the children of Israel were very mighty. Verse 21, and it came to pass, because the midwives feared God, that He made them houses. And Pharaoh charged all his people, saying, every son that is born ye shall cast into the river, and every daughter ye shall save alive. So now he couldn't get the midwives to kill the babies. Now he was going to command that all of the people kill the sons and save the daughters alive. Let's look back at 21 where it says, because it came to pass, because the midwives feared God, that He made them houses. How do you think He did that? Do you think that He moved on some of the children of Israel to donate the things, they needed to make the houses, and then somehow had some of them to build those houses and make those houses for Shiphrah and Puah? I think he probably used his people to do that. But Pharaoh wasn't through yet, was he? He charged the children of Israel. Charged them. In other words, you better do this. And Pharaoh charged all his people, all of God's people, saying, every son that is born ye shall cast into the river, and every daughter ye shall save alive. Do you think they did it? Besides, as we go on down, we'll find that one woman didn't do it. Do you think they did it? If the midwives couldn't kill their children, how were they going to kill their children? So I don't know. It doesn't say whether any of them did it. But it's hard to believe that any of them would. The children of Israel. You know, they had God on their side. I don't know how much they knew about God yet. I don't know. It seemed they must have, because it caused the midwives to fear God. So they had, I'm sure, the traditions of God. The children of Israel. You know, the children of Israel are why we have this perfect book. The children of Israel gave it to us. The man that's writing it is Moses. And we're going to read his story. So, thank God for the children of Israel. Now, I'm going to stop here and we're going to start back on Monday on chapter 2 of Exodus. It'll get exciting, won't it? All right. See you then.